there two? Is there any more? Oh yeah, you're on top. Yeah, he sits right on. And have we got two mics or not? Yeah. Yeah. Can you grab me another mic, or should I go and get another mic? It's not a big deal right now. I'll do a sound check while we're here. Oh, it works. Hi, guys. This is a super treat to have you all here today. And my voice is, I'm not sick, I'm a voice abuser. And my friend Rachel will know what that means because she's got called a voice abuser before. A voice abuser is someone who talks far too much and far too loud. But that's okay with me. I'm okay to be a voice abuser. I'll take it as a badge of honour.
Yo.
Hello.
This is a nice little informal start.
It's been a huge week and we're super excited to be here with you today, like you have no idea. Hey.
Yeah, it's a big deal for all of us. You know, I look around the room and I know that there are people here that are here to support us, different members of the family, Dad, myself, Alice, Matt, Hayden. But there's also Joy, Mum's sister, and Gary, Mum's brother, and all their families. But there's also more people in the room. Ran, nice to see you. That are here to grieve. And so it's a really mixed gathering today where we are here to celebrate 65 years of an incredible, incredible woman. But we're also here to grieve because she's gone and it leaves an incredible hole in our hearts. So it's not going to be, as you can tell already, it's not going to be a normal one of these type services because Mum was not a normal person and not an ordinary person. She was extraordinary. And we're going to do our best to do her proud today. So we're actually really excited about this, hey?
We've been looking forward to this all week. We had the most special day on Wednesday at the crematorium with Mum. Monday was the most special day. Every day has just been super special with super special people around us, celebrating different things, different ceremonious things that you do. And we have an overwhelming sense of actually happiness because Mum was such an amazing person and did an amazing 65 years, that our overwhelming sense is actually of gratitude and happiness because of the journey that we've had.
So it's our privilege to introduce our pastor who's going to be helping to lead the service today. And in the run sheet, he was going to be doing the welcome, and we thought, actually, no, he needs to be introduced because this man, this family have been an incredible pillar in our lives. And I tell you what, everybody needs somebody like Wes and Janet in their lives, that when you are in a crisis, you have somebody you can lean on. And we know we've been through, as a lot of you know, we've been through our fair share of crises. And our own faith and our own love and connection with our family has held us instead. But having these wonderful people here that helped to carry us along the journey have been incredible. So please help me welcome.
Can I say a bit more?
Oh, yeah,
I'm going to say more.
Yes.
I'm going to butt in. I sat with Wes on Wednesday. We're at the crematorium, and Wes has been with us Wes and Janet are just with us every step of the way. I don't know, I was probably 11 years old, thereabouts, when we met these guys. We came to their church. We were transitioning across from, living on the other side of town to coming across to Horswell, changing the direction that we were going as a family and our faith and different things that we were moving on to. And we became part of their church. Obviously, we went to Australia and came back. But Mum and Dad have remained the connection with Wes and Janet, and Wes will go into that more. I just want you to know, I sat with Wes, and it's prepared me for what I'm saying today, that I just was thanking him. Wednesday was just the most beautiful day with Mum, as all the other days have been. Wednesday, we wrote on her casket all these beautiful messages. I put fresh cut flowers from the garden into her casket. It was so beautiful. The undertaker said, look, you can have 2 slots. I said, that's great. We need 2 slots. We need extra time. And it was beautiful. We had her favourite playlist on. And I sat with Wes after. We all went to Willowbank afterwards and had a bit of lunch. And I thanked him. I said, you've journeyed with our family, and I need you to know this. I need you, every single person in here, I need you to know what these incredible pastors have been to the Stuart family. I just want you to know we haven't come to, and not that any church is just a church, because they're not. Churches are special. But to the Stuart family, Living Waters Christian Centre is not just a church that we come to on a Sunday. Wes and Janet are not just pastors that we turn up to on a Sunday. These guys have been out for dinner with mum and dad. They're friends. They've holidayed with mum and dad. They've been there in the darkest times in our family over the last 5 years. As many of you know what those dark times have been. They were on holiday, and I said this to Wes. I said, hang on a minute. I was thanking him, and he said, oh, thank you. And he walked away. I said, no, sit back down. I said, you turned around on your annual holiday in Kaiteri with your family when Dad was in intensive care on life support, did a U-turn, and an annual holiday, as all of us know, is really important. And you turned up in ICU to be with our family, to walk us through it, to talk us through it, to lead us through it, to pray with us. I just need you to know what these incredible people, who these incredible people are to Mum and to our family. And it was even funny, the serendipities. I put a thing out on Facebook a week or two ago saying we needed extra support for Mum. We've got Mum's had an amazing carer, Lottie, who we're so grateful for Lottie. And that all just comes through connections with people. That was through Renita. And 2 o'clock in the morning, I don't post anything to Facebook much. And Mandy Chambers, Wes's own daughter, I was looking for a bit of work. This would be great. I love you, Mum. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? And every time I turn up, she's just this beautiful, everything's been perfect. That's why we have an overwhelming sense of celebration and gratitude, because it's all just been so beautiful. How could you be angry? How could you be distraught when it's just been the most beautiful end that anyone could ever have? And I'll go into that later, but I just want you to know the respect and the love that we have for Wes and Janet Chambers, who've been pastors of this church for over 20 years, I'm sorry I don't know the number, is enormous. So, yeah, please join me in, well, you don't have to join me in welcome. I don't know how you, sorry, I'm a bit of an over-the-top person. But
we love that about you.
I just want you to know who this guy is, because we're going to have an awesome day today, and I'm just so glad you're all here. So, are we done?
I think that's the
Okay.
intro. Yeah, let's get it started, Wes.
Love you, mate.
Somebody help me here.
Yeah. Oh, you want that one?
I'll
Take
give
that
it.
one. Yeah.
I don't know whether to be embarrassed or what, but anyway, I hear your heart, Alice, and thank you so much. Incredible honour to walk with you as a family, and there have been a few adventures, haven't there? A few crises, and from riding bulls to here you are. And now you've walked a journey with your wife, Peter, and your mum, guys, and your mother-in-law, and mother-in-love, as somebody would say, Renita, and your nana. This is not the day we were looking for, is it? Let's face it. But here we are to celebrate a very dear, very beautiful person, and there'll be tears, there'll be laughter, there'll be all sorts of things. I do have to do a couple of safety notices, just to anchor us all again, and to anchor myself again, because I was a wee bit nervous, Alice, and but anyway, there we are. So safety notices. If we have an earthquake, just stay put. This is a flexible building, and but if we do have to leave for some reason, then there's a gathering point out near the car park. The big pole out there, you'll see it. The bathrooms are just out and to the left. There's a range of appropriate bathrooms there for you. And that's about it, really. And so I wonder if we could all stand for a moment. We're going to pray together. Father, I want to thank you for the fact that you are the Lord, you are King, you are Creator. You're our Lord, you're our Saviour. We gather here today because your word says that precious in the eyes of the Lord is the death of one of his saints. And we're not talking about saints the way some groups of Christians think about saints. We're just talking about the people who have been saved and transformed by your power and by your word, of which Barbara is a wonderful example. And today as we gather, we very much are relying on your strength, we're relying on your grace and your comfort, and we know that we have it. So Father, we just thank you for your presence right here in this place. We thank you for your great love for Peter, for all of the family and all of the friends. We honour you today. I pray, Lord, that each person would experience something of your presence, something of inspiration, something of your love for each individual. As we celebrate Barbara's life, even though we would have all wanted it to have been longer, Lord, we celebrate her life. We celebrate the work of your presence, the work of your word and your spirit in her life that was so example to us by the way she lived, by the way she loved, and by the way she treated us all. We want to thank you for your kindness to us. We pray, Lord, for your great wraparound comfort for Peter and all the family. In Jesus' name, amen. You may be seated. So directly after our gathering here, there's going to be afternoon tea served out on the deck, just out there. I'm going to be calling it Barbara's deck from now on, probably. There's a reason for that. And there's going to be some beautiful catering. There's be some refreshments and drinks. There's quite a decent number of us, so we'll just work that out and we'll treat each other kindly, won't we? And also, parents, you are responsible for your children. We do have a swale over there. We have various things. Some of them might be attracted to that. So we'll just expect you to just keep an eye on your children. So, Alistair, I'll just welcome you up. Peter's brother, where are you? And you're going to read Psalm 23 to us. I'll hand you this microphone.
Thank you. Well done, guys. That was great. Hi, everyone. Yes. Okay. Normally, when it comes time to read a reading, some people tend to switch off, but don't do that today. Because Barb had a special relationship with the Lord.
Yeah.
And everyone probably knows Psalm 23, which is what I'm going to read, but it talks about that walk that we have. So let me read it, and then I just want to say a couple of words after that. The Lord is my shepherd of everything I need. He lets me rest in the meadow grass and leads me beside the quiet streams. He restores my failing health. He helps me to do what honours him the most. Even when walking through the dark valley of death, I will not be afraid. For you are close beside me, guiding all the way. You provide delicious food for me in the presence of my enemies. You have welcomed me as your guest. Blessings overflow. Your goodness and unfailing kindness shall be with me all of my life, and afterwards I will live with him forever in his home. That's the important bit. And I nearly muffed it, so yeah. Don't forget that bit. Because I'm only going to read it once. But, I just love Barb's infectious laugh. And you put a laugh of hers together with the laugh of Pete's together. You're going to hear them before you see them, aren't you? And I think that's awesome. We were talking about it on the way down the car, actually, and you can't beat having a good laugh, can you? It's good for the soul, and they certainly do a great, they were a great team together, let's face it. They were an awesome team in lots of ways. But the infectious laugh was awesome. The way she loved Pete and the way that she loved her family, and also actually this light's not very good here.
Does that light work?
That's all right.
Hey.
It's good. Thank you. I was going to do it off Pat, but then I thought no. But her infectious laugh. She loved people, and she was just easy to talk to, Barb. She was so easy to talk to, and she had a real interest in people, and she was a smart cookie. If ever any of you knew her as far as the business sense is concerned, she knew her stuff, and she suffered fools lightly. She certainly, I valued her opinion anyway. She was certainly she was a very smart cookie, and she was a doer. You know, she got things done. You know, she was amazing how she, could whip up a meal, or she could just get something done that needed to be done. She wasn't just a talker. She was a doer, and I really I valued that in Barb. But she's also fun to be around. That's the part that that I really enjoyed the most. She was always fun. She was always welcoming. Always had a smile and a friend, a word to say. So I really loved that in her. But I think we should be encouraged by this scripture, and most of you already know it. That she's now gone to be with her friend Jesus, and that she's going to live with him forever after. And I think that's awesome. What an amazing lady.
Good job. Is it Jeremy and I and the family stuff now? Yeah. Yep. We're on, bro. You got us again. So we've got a few family speakers that are just going to share some insights of Mum.
We'll do our little bit of history
You'll do your
first.
bit first, though.
Well, yeah.
We're making it up as we go along with notes that we prepared earlier.
A little bit, some notes. But we wanted to give you a bit of, everybody knows Mum in a different capacity here, and so we want to try to paint a little bit of a picture of who she was. I'm going to start with that, and then, as Ella said, we're going to get some family and some friends to pitch in, and I'm going to need your input in this. Just
I'll help you
when you feel.
I'll try not to talk over you.
All right.
Or interrupt. I'm a really good interrupter. Jason's raising his eyebrows, my husband.
So our beautiful mum, born Barbara Ann McIntosh to Russell and Valerie McIntosh. She was born in Balclutha in the year 1957, and they lived on the family farm at Moa Hill, just southwest of Balclutha, with her older sister Sandra, who's no longer with us, but I'm sure watching over us today. Her younger siblings Gary and Diane Joy, and they lived on that farm. It was a pretty hard-working, hard life, wasn't it, guys? I haven't heard a lot of real big warm memories from those early days, but I think it was an environment where they
were warm. They were just tough.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Anyway, after graduating from the local area primary school called Warripa, there was a big move for the kids then to go off to Balclutha High School. So that was a huge transition. And I got some wonderful notes from our family friend Ken Blair that I'd like to read out. Ken's he says, my first recollection of Barb was on the high school bus. The Macs drove an old Ford Prefect van about 3 to 4 kilometres to meet the bus each day. They were well aware of health and safety long before it was a thing, because they never let Gary drive. Barb had high standards in whatever she did, and in the early days she made money rouseying. Does anyone know what rouseying is? In the sharing gangs. And anyway, that culminated in her actually being named the Otago Southland Rousey of the Year. So a wonderful accolade for her. Ken says, during our late teens, we would attend numerous dances at the Warripa Hall. Some of these actually Mum helped to organise. These were legendary events full of laughs. Equally legendary was the hospitality at the Macintoshes' place, with music, dancing and fun. The Stuarts were awesome fishermen, and Pete, being the handsome man he is, was never short of a date, but catch and release was his romantic strategy. Pete wasn't sure how much truth was in that, but anyway. However, the first time that he took Barb out, the boys caught up with him afterwards. And I'll tell you a little story about Mum and Dad's first date. So, Dad was at home, and the phone rang. His mum answered the phone and said, Pete, it's for you. It's Barbara McIntosh. And Mum was a year ahead of Dad in school, and Dad knew of Mum, but they didn't really know each other that well. Had no idea that she knew who he was, and he back and forth to his mum Ruby 2 or 3 times. She can't be ringing me. What's she ringing me for? The backstory to this phone call was that Mum was part of a community group that had organised this dance, and there was to be no alcohol at the dance because of the particular group that it was part of.
And Mum thought Dad didn't drink.
She knew, that's right.
She thought.
Yes. And but she knew he came...
Because he came from a good Christian home.
That's right.
Mum knew Dad came from a good Christian home, so she thought he didn't drink.
So she put the invite out to Pete. Well, Pete could not believe it. Could not believe it. Absolutely thrilled. Of course he said yes. Borrowed his dad's Triumph. Went up to Moa Hill to pick up Barb. Got a bit of a grilling, I hear, from Gary and particularly Russell. And anyway, we went out for this date. We went to the ball. It all went well. And then Ken recollects as they get together again afterwards, and I'm sure I can imagine as what I was a teenage boy not that long ago, having Dad's car and meeting up with the boys afterwards. But the boys said that they fed him quite a diet of banter, and it became very clear that this was not a catch and release situation, but that there were very strong feelings right from the start. Funnily enough, there was much less room for the boys in Pete's life after that, and who could blame him? That said, Barb did indulge us in some time, from time to time, joining us in the Mai for duck shooting, and on one occasion, making carvings and the like out of kelp on a sea fishing trip that they went to the Catlins. That event turned out to be a bit nasty, and partly I think because Dad's always been one for adventure, not always one for forethought and caution. And so the story goes about this trip out to the Catlins is that they were out making carvings in the kelp and having a wonderful time and not realising the tide had come in and blocked their exit. So they couldn't get back, and it must have been quite treacherous for them to get back through the water because the only way was to climb up this steep cliff or bank. And Mum certainly didn't think she was going to get out alive. That was the first
of many times that Mum would think she wouldn't get out alive. First of many times as kids we thought he wouldn't get out alive, but we still lived to tell the tale.
But it's amazing how Mum came alongside Dad. She knew if she wanted to spend time with him, she needed to, go along and be on the riverbank with him, fishing and do different things. And it's amazing to hear some of the stories Dad tell about that. It's really special. But anyway, so that was the early days, and then Barb went off to Teachers College. And she stayed, this is still Ken's humour, by the way, this is not my humour. But Barb went off to Teachers College and stayed in the Salmon Hall, which was a single-sex accommodation establishment, a place with a strict curfew for male visitors. However, Pete and Barb enjoyed each other's company so much that the curfew was sometimes missed, and exiting the building unnoticed became quite the issue. To compound the matter, Barb's room was on the 3rd floor. Innovation was the key to escape. And there were occasions when Pete would leave the window, shimmying down the outside building, hanging onto the stormwater drain. However, there was on one occasion where he slipped and fell about 15 metres to the flower bed below. And Dad said he remembers that. Following Mum's graduation from Teachers College, Mum and Dad must have had a bit of a rocky patch. Now, I haven't talked too much about that because we want to try and keep things positive and light today.
I don't think it was a rocky patch. I think it was just as we develop and we grow from growing up as a child, as a teenager, and moving into the next phase of your life, there becomes a set of decisions to be made. And some of those, we all make different decisions at different times of our life. And Mum obviously had firm things of what she wanted to do. And I think she just thought, how do I establish myself as a person? I'll travel to the links of the end of the country and try and do it that way. So I think it was evolution as we do as a person.
But there was a breakup. So mum had made a definitive decision of this is what I want. And they were young. They were only 19, I think. They must have been at the time. And Dad wasn't quite ready for that commitment yet. And so Mum found the opportunity to go and work in Nelson, and she was off. And she left Dad in her wake and carried on. And Dad, you didn't cope with that very well.
Opposite ends of the country, bottom of the South Island, top of the South Island.
And so after a week of hardly being able to touch his food and just being in an absolute wreck.
That's what Mum said anyway. That was Mum's version of the events. Joy said, yeah, that's it. You got it.
Pete's parents come alongside him and said, look, this girl obviously means a lot to you. You better go and get on up there. And so his mum, Ruby, had a sister in Nelson, Auntie Betty. And so she got on the phone to Auntie Betty. And it's quite interesting. It's amazing when you get together and all this stuff, these little stories come out. And both, because maybe they were so young, there was a slight age difference, but both sets of parents were sus on the other ones, is what we're hearing, which is quite interesting. So even though...
Fairly common these days.
Yeah. That's
I had the same thing.
You had the same thing. And so anyway, they rang Auntie Betty and said, look, Pete, can you look after Pete? He's going to come up. Can you stay with you? Just look after him. I just don't know if Barb's the right one, but he's head over heels for her. Anyway, so he packs his drum kit up, takes off to Nelson, gets a job in the local sawmill, tracks Mum down, and there's some more stories that Auntie Lindsay's going to talk about around that. But Dad told me about a story about when they really came back together. They were going for a walk on the Tahunanui beach, trying to reconnect, trying to find where their paths had split and to come back together. And somehow they got talking about the commitment. Dad realised he needed to make a commitment. Well, he went the whole hog. And he, right there and then, he proposed to her. And she said yes. And Dad thought, crap. What am I going to do? It was no forethought. Well, maybe there were a little bit, but he was in. And that was it. He knew he wasn't going to go back. And so within a few short months, they came back down to Warripa, they got married, and then packed any other gear they had up, and then they settled in Nelson. I'm not sure how long they were in Nelson for, but then they got a phone call one day from Dad's dad, and there was an opportunity that they'd grown up. Dad came from a family of sawmillers, Mum from farmers. And Mum had a real passion for teaching, and she actually had, Joy shared with me that somebody did, that she was actually had ambitions early at that young age to be the principal in the school in Nelson that she was in. But anyway, that wasn't to be, because Dad got a phone call from his family and said, hey, there's a sawmill, a defunct sawmill in this place called Tapanui, near Balclutha where we grew up. I reckon we can come together as a family again and make a business out of it. What do you reckon? And Dad had always had a vision of working together as family, because he came from a very tight family. And I don't know if Mum actually got much say in it. But that was it. They packed up, they left Nelson, and they came down to Tapanui. And that was where Alice and I were born. And that's where life kind of began for them, for us as a family unit. It was a big deal for Mum to shelve her dreams and to come and support her husband. But I believe a very honourable step in what she did. In that step, she coming down to Tapanui. Tapanui is a pretty small place. She got the headmaster job as a young lady in her 20s of the local area school, and she was the headmaster there until that school ended up closing down. That school was Kelso Primary. So
is that the one where she used to turn up early and crank the boiler and do everything?
That's right. Yeah.
But that was all hard graft back from farming days.
That's right.
The hard graft that the McIntosh family had. I mean, Dad's got it too. Anyone born and raised, or anyone growing up in a farming environment, there's just nothing like it to give you that real grit And it's something that we've certainly appreciated growing up. We didn't grow up on a farm, but I feel like we kind of did because we were raised by two that sort of grew up in that farming background and that hard-working background. And I just take my hat off to anyone who is in that environment. I just think it's the best thing you could ever do for your family is raise your kids that way. But yeah, it certainly has put us in good stead. Sorry, back to you.
So Mum and Dad were really involved in the community at Tapanui. They were part of the motorcycle club before us kids came along, and Dad really enjoyed playing basketball. And one of his mates that he played basketball with, Mike Hoffman, he got involved in this sideline hustle business, and he was looking for people to come and join him on this new venture. And he knew Pete through basketball, and he thought, I'm going to go and catch up with Pete and Barb. So he did. It happened that Pete wasn't home that day. I was in the bath, and I think Mum was pregnant with Alice at the time.
Mike hopped over the fence.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mum was pregnant with me, you're in the bath, and
That's
Mum's like, what the heck?
And anyway, started to paint this picture that you could do something alongside what you do as a mum, as it still continue to be a stay-at-home parent, but you wouldn't be stuck doing nappies all the time. You actually have something with some purpose and meaning, and also an opportunity to create some extra income. And Mum grabbed that with two hands, and she ran with it. Dad didn't have a lot of room for anything else at the time. He sort of supported her in that, but it wasn't until they went away together to a seminar in Invercargill where Dad really grabbed a hold of the vision for that business as well. And in that environment, there was a significant amount of personal development that was just part of that system.
Yeah, if I can also just pause here for a second and just say, please know that the influence of the Amway business in our personal lives as children is something that we hold in high esteem. The personal development that we've enjoyed and been enriched with as children, I mean, how it's held Mum and Dad's, it's built their life, it's built their relationships, it's helped them become incredible bosses, it's helped them become incredible relationships as friends, as partners, as marriage partners, incredible parents to us, bosses at Horswell Timber, leaders in every facet of life. The personal development that has come alongside the Amway business, Dad's going to actually share, or Jeremy's going to share on that later, and that's something incredible that Mum holds in high esteem. Her thirst for knowledge, that'll get touched on later, but please know that the respect that we have for the Amway business and the Network 21 education system and the mentors, Tony and Mary Henderson, Mike and Bridget Hoffman, all the high achievers, any achiever, attendees, anyone that we brush shoulders with in that business, Dawn and Dave Cook, a lot of Mum's friends and family have come in and out of the business. It's been an incredible part of our lives, an incredible enriching part of our lives, and we hold it in massive respect, huge respect. And I just want to say that because it's been an incredible building block. It's dovetailed into Christianity and our faith incredibly well, because many of the high achievers in that business have an incredible faith, because it's really hard to achieve high in life if you don't have something greater than yourself, and that's where faith comes into it. And many of you have beliefs bigger than yourselves, and you kind of realise that you need to have a fulfilling life. But I just wanted to touch on that because it's just absolutely huge, and we don't brush over this as a job that they did for a while or a side thing they did for a while. The Amway business and Network 21 is absolutely a huge part of our lives that each one of us kids and Dad and Mum hold very dearly and in high esteem.
And it was the culmination of their work ethic and their passion. They'd taken time to dream about what life could be like if they could really work this opportunity, and that really it enabled them to dream bigger. Dad realised he's the fourth in a line of 5 boys and then a girl in his family, and I think almost all the boys except for Alistair were involved in the sawmill. So Dad was low down the pecking order and realised that if we wanted to do something more, he might have to go outside of Tapanui, and so that caused them to make a bold move of leaving this country town and moving to Christchurch. And Mum, Alice was here by then, and Mum was pregnant with Matt, and she talks about crying the whole way. Like, it was just such a massive deal.
Pregnant with Matt
when they came to Christchurch, yeah. Yeah, and so massive move with a young family. Their first church that they connected into was Northwest New Life. Beautiful pastors.
So this is the move from Tapanui. They packed up and left Tapanui, a very small town of, I don't know, a few hundred people, I don't know, whatever it would have been,
yeah.
and moved to Christchurch.
Yeah, and so that Dad, as a lot of you know, got a manager's job in sales and then progressed into management at Horsell Timber. And Mum was a stay-home mum, and she got involved with their local church, which really helped to forge some healthy community and was an incredible support to Mum. She often talks a lot about the women's group, the mums groups and things, and the support, especially from their pastor, Jill Bennett's, really helped to mould and shape her a lot.
Northwest New Life Church was an amazing church for us as kids. It was an amazing place to grow up. It was brilliant.
So then Matt was born in Christchurch, and Hayden came along 2 years later. So it was a really busy time for Mum, raising 4 young kids. Dad was working across town, doing big hours in that industry. And yeah, it was a really busy time, but it was a great time for us as kids. We weren't allowed to watch a lot of TV, were we? So there was a lot of creative play, a lot of messy play, a lot of really fond memories in that house. And
get up on the garden shed. We had the garden shed and then the trampoline, and then you must have built a tree house, Dad.
Yeah,
and we'd climb up onto the garden shed and jump off onto the trampoline, and that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And every week, well, I don't know what day it was Amway product pickup, because back in those days, that's how it was done.
That's right.
It's all direct shipped to your door now, so we had to sleep out, and that was Mum's business room, Mum and Dad's business, and then all the product, and everyone would come, and so these people would become our friends. They became our family friends, because we saw them every week.
Back in the days of fax machines, yeah, there was a little bit of child labour, wasn't there?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Every good family and every good business is brought up on child labour.
One of the huge blessings from the Amway business that was international travel, and Mum, didn't she, Dad? She found a love for international travel, and you guys forged some incredible friendships with some amazing people. Because when you go on these trips, you're going away with all of leaders within their field that everybody on those trips have achieved success. So just hanging around and being around that environment was incredibly special for Mum and Dad, and a real break out of the norm. We had to put up with a lot of weird nannies, didn't we?
Yeah, but it doesn't hurt you.
No.
I think as a kid you thought it was terrible, but it doesn't. You know, I'm a huge advocate of babysitters. Pay someone and go out. Honestly,
yeah.
It didn't hurt us at the time. We said it did, but it did not hurt us. And I do that a lot now with my kids. I think pay someone and get out of there. It's great.
So their business mentor, yeah, that's right.
Only occasionally. It's fine. It doesn't hurt them. Your marriage is what's most important. I don't care. Your relationship with your partner, and that's something I'm just going to quickly say.
Yes.
I remember travelling with Mum and Dad. We did a lot of travelling as kids, and car sickness wasn't an option. It was never discussed. It was never talked about. You weren't car sick. Take your jersey off, wind the window down.
We were the only ones in Christchurch. Everybody else was south.
Yeah, our whole family was south, and so we would travel south. It feels like forever we travelled south. Long car trips. It was just the norm. Go away for long weekends, whatever, holidays, whatever. But I valued sitting in the back of the car, and you pick up things like a sponge. It's like osmosis. Mum and Dad would be there listening to either an Amway tape talking about personal development, or they'd be listening to some praise and worship music, and they would be talking about either the Amway business or the Horsell Timber business, and they would be strategizing, and they would be talking back. And I do that now. I wanted that, and I do that now. I have that now. I don't have some things I don't have that I wanted, but that's not for me. I'm doing it my style. But I love that. I love that. It was amazing watching you guys. It was just incredible. So I don't know where that came from, but I just wanted to say that we watched your relationship with Mum. We watched it, and you get an idea of what to copy, what to do, and it was amazing. It was a great example.
It was a great example. You guys worked hard on your relationship, and it was really special. We never saw you guys fight in front of us at all. It was, and I'm sure you did. We didn't fight. You didn't. But time to fight. No, that's right.
Too busy.
But one thing I'll touch on is that Mum was a real stickler for making sure that us, four young kids growing up. There was, of course, lots of toing and froing, but she was really hard on us, not speaking ill of one another or of anybody else, and that's something that's been very strong.
If you don't have anything good to say, don't say it.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. So anyway, Dad had been working at Horsell Timber, and the year 1997, the opportunity came for that business to be passed on to them, which was a very, in a way, sovereign thing, and I believe it's for Dad's faithfulness that came about, but certainly not without Mum's support. And so the business owner of that business put to them an incredible offer for them to step in and to be able to buy the business. And through some advice that they got from Mum and Dad's Amway mentors, actually, they challenged them to go at it alone. Dad felt like he needed to go back and lean on his family in Tapanui and help it all be one unit. And as it's turned out, they've done it on their own, and it's been an incredible testimony to them. So they sold their house. We upped and moved, and we all mucked in, didn't we, as a family, and to spruce that business up. Mum's got a very, very high standard, doesn't she? She always loved to look impeccable, and always loved to dress well. She always loved to have a house neat and tidy, and that transferred over to the business, and it certainly was in need of a bit of TLC, but she really raised the standard on that. So our house move, as Alice alluded to earlier, also brought about a move of churches, which was a big part of our community. So we found ourselves connected with Living Waters, and I don't know how often it happened, but certainly it seemed like a lot that we would host people, even though we were a big family. Seems to be that big families always have room for more, and we would often have people come and stay in our home. And there was a travelling ministry that came and did a series of night meetings here with Living Waters, and we had some of that team stay with us. So we built relationship with them, and we got involved with what they were doing, and it actually was really transformational for Mum and Dad's lives. And through that, we had a holiday on the Gold Coast to visit that church where they came from, and then within a few months, Dad had instilled some management at Horsell Timber, and we were off. We upped and moved.
I think too at that point we were in a bit of a, I shouldn't say crisis, but like, the age that us kids were at, I think I was probably a bit of a disaster, and Mum and Dad were sort of looking, not just me, but they were just sort of looking. Mum said it was either going to be Aussie or America. They just had to move. They had to make a change, and so we ended up moving to Australia and lived there for 3 years. Dad did the first year at Bible college. I think we did the second year at Bible college with Mum. You, Mum, and myself. Yeah. So, and that was an incredible time to go and uproot your life. Mum
homeschooled the boys while that was all happening.
Uproot your life, put roots down somewhere else as your own family. And coming back, when you move back, we moved back to Christchurch. Moving back's just as hard as moving away. Because everyone you knew, all the routines and everything you had, all the people you dealt with, they've all done different things and you've got to almost remake different relationships, or things have changed. So moving back was just as hard as moving away. But they're formative times as our own family unit of 6. It was special times doing all that stuff together. I remember one year you put a gum tree in the lounge for our Christmas tree, and I was just like, what the heck? But I mean, it's all good stuff. It made you realise that you just make it work, and you just have a gum tree for a Christmas tree, and she's all good.
That's right. But coming back, I think you stayed with the beautiful Tipple family, opened up their home, and again, a big family. When you first moved back, you have room for more. Why not? The Stuarts can come and stay with us until they find a house.
Because it was hard to find a rental for 4 children back then, I think.
Yeah.
We couldn't find anywhere to live. And
you ended up being out at Coast Ford, I think, didn't you, for a little while?
Yeah.
So, anyway, coming back home, some changes at Horsell Timber meant that Mum was actually thrust into an admin role. She'd always been, in the background, really, at Horsell Timber up until that point. And when they came back from Australia, she was hands-on, boots and all, in the business. And it was amazing to see, as Alice said, her thirst for learning and her hunger for excellence, that she would just pour into learning the skills. She wanted to, anything that she was going to have to manage, she wanted to first know how to do it herself so that she could manage it well. And she did that incredibly. Not long after that, the opportunity came up for them to purchase our family batch, which is now our family batch, was Granddad's family batch, the one in Bannockburn. And that then brought about it with a new season of life. It was another space for Mum and Dad, Mum particularly, to be able to invite people. And many of you have had experiences there of just being gathered. Mum was such a gatherer. She was so intentional about getting around people. And that place has become really special and will continue to be long after she's now gone. Then you guys left.
Who left?
You and Matt went to Nelson.
Oh, yeah. So
That must have been hard because for Mum,
yeah,
two
to
out of the
lose
nest
two
straight
children
away.
So quickly was hard. Yeah, that's a long story, but we don't need to go into that.
No.
But it was Mum and Dad. Obviously, Nelson held a special place in their hearts, and just certain things in the market. There was an opportunity.
You and Matt were working at Hallsville Timber.
We were working there. We were working there. He
And
was one of the aldermen, and I was in the office.
Yeah.
And so
you must have been hungry for change, or was it Dad's idea?
We weren't. We said, we'll come and give you
It was your idea.
We'll come and give you a hand to set this business up. Mum was super excited when they got the piece of paper of the company and corporation in Nelson. And we came up and gave them a hand, and then we ended up staying. And yeah, I sort of thought it was our idea, and you said it was your idea. I can't remember. But it was all mishmashy, and Matt and I ended up moving up there, bought a house up there, and ran that business for a couple of years and did it solo. We've both done it solo as well, and it's been the makings of us. That experience has been the makings of us.
Yes.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And then you met Jace.
And then I met Jason, yes.
Yeah.
Also, the makings of me.
Yes. Yeah, so that's the end of my notes, so we're going to have to freelance the rest of it.
We've got a list of special family members that are going to come and share some bits and pieces. We just wanted to kind of cover off some of the
backstory.
Yeah, that you may not have known. So who's first on the list?
Our wonderful auntie.
Auntie Joy.
Yes.
Yes. Woohoo. Come up, Auntie Joy. I will say, I'm going to say...
Oh, yeah, you will.
I'm going to say, we're not going to stop it, no. So Auntie Joy has always... We've got an amazing family. You must know the McIntosh family, as is the Stuart family. The McIntosh family have been the most incredible family to be connected to. And Auntie Sandra, who's no longer with us, at the oldest, and then Mum, yourself. It's just been fun. We've always had, Gaz, we've always had the most fun. You guys have just been the coolest family. I'm so grateful that we've had two families to be part of. Like, it's just the best upbringing for any kid, and it's been a real reflective time for us this week as we've thought to ourselves, right, we've got to do this for our own kids. We've got to make sure that we copy and we do what you guys have done and how we've been raised, because the last 5 years we've all got a bit lost with all the stuff that's happened, that we've lost a lot of stuff. And this has really made us think, hey, we've got to pull this back together because we want to give our kids what you guys gave us. And Auntie Joy... And Auntie Joy has... Can I just say one thing? What Auntie Joy has done for our mother in the last 18 months is the most incredible thing. Any human, she's her sister. I know she's her sister. I know they're related. But it goes beyond that. What she's done, she's been there and done things none of us kids could do. None of us could do. None of us had the capacity for what this woman has had the capacity for. And it's taken away from her own family. It's taken away from her own husband, her own kids, and her own grandkids, and her business. And she's done it, and she showed up, and she's done so much. No one will ever know what she's done. So it's with huge respect and huge honour that I... thank you, and thank you's never going to be enough. I said I'm going to get her an auntie badge, and I will. I'll make you an auntie badge. So that'll be mailed to you. It's in the mail.
With the lightning.
Yeah. Lightning.
There's... Oh. I didn't have my notes prepared because it's just in my heart. My sister's in my heart, as she is with all of you guys, and that's why you're here. Barb and I, us 4 kids growing up on the farm, we knew adventure. Barb knew adventure. She loved it. She met her partner, and the adventure began again. Our families, we always had it in our heart to keep our families together. So if you keep your families together, you play together. So motorbiking became a real big thing. All the kids had motorbikes, even if they went into the dam at Bannockburn, was it Hawea, Corrine? But we look on those escapades and go, thank God all our kids survived and came back alive. There was a time when we're all going up one area and it was pretty steep and we're all kind of gathered at the bottom, and some of the kids went up and said, oh, we're getting a bit stuck. The wheels are spinning. They'd hit the snow and the ice. So our advice as thoughtful health and safety parents was, well, actually you need a bigger run up and you need to gun it. They gunned it, but yeah, it was actually a turnaround. But that was like, we just had that within us as parents. And that's just what we did, is we gathered together, and we continued to do that through the years. And it's interesting, Barb and I have had a connection. We haven't always been close as sisters. You grow apart and you come back. And but when our older sister was in her time of being unwell, and we would gather down at Waitati and just hang out as three sisters. And that was the most precious time that we had together. And I remember another time when you're kind of in sync but you don't know. And I didn't realise that I was ringing Barbara right when the earthquake was happening. And I got her on the phone, and she was in the middle of the yard at Horswell. And she said, there's earthquake. And I said, oh, sis, I'll let you go. She said, no, stay on the phone with me, stay on the phone. And I just did, as to she just got what she needed to do next. And then we had that call, and it was after our daughter's wedding. And I knew something was up with sis. And John and I both remember where we were sitting, and she said, oh, I've got something to tell you. I've been diagnosed. And I went, shit. There was no good thing about it. And I said, oh, sis, I'm coming in. Oh, no, you don't need to, I'm fine, I'm okay. And I said, actually, you might be, I'm not, I'm coming in. And she was there in the lounge, and her and I slept on the lounge for that week. And then the journey started. And the courage that Barbara had to choose to live was such a capacity that she sought not so much the battle, but to enjoy the life and to create the life that she wanted and give it every opportunity. And I said, sis, I'm with you all the way, however that looks and whatever that looks. And she had not always probably chosen her pathway as us women do at times. We go and we're supporting our partner. But she really chose her pathway in this. She stood in her sovereignty, really, where she said, no, this is where I want to journey. It's not down the medical line. And that took an amazing amount of energy and courage to hold that. But that was her. And we journeyed. We had some tough times. And she then, the opening came up to go to Australia. And she says, we're going. And I went, yay. And I was with her, but I knew towards the end that if she's got the courage to go, I've got the courage to go with her. It wasn't an easy journey, but it was a good journey, and it was a journey of healing on her. We were wanting and desiring that stupid tumour to go. But she had an amazing healing within her heart of knowing who she is. Barb had such a heart to serve others and to work and to, if you gave her a list, she's going to tick it off. She's going to do it. But to know that she was loved just for her, not for her activity, not for her children, not for what she was to do, was a real big shift for her. And she really came home to that and knowing that. And so that was her peace. And in Australia, we were, she wasn't writing at that stage. So we would talk. I says, Barb, what are the things in your world that you want to continue to create? Because she was always a creator. And she would just list them off, this, and I'd be writing them down. And she'd read them back to me. And I'd read them back, and she goes, oh, wow, that's so good. This is going to be exciting. Can you read it again? And I'd read it again. And that was our kind of our nightly or morning thing that we did over there. And then we journeyed home. And it kind of, we both came back pretty tired. It was, but then we've always had Lottie, we've always had, and then Mandy came on, and I was able to kind of like go home and regroup, which we did. But I want to honour my sis for the courage she had in choosing her pathway in life and knowing that this was right for her journey. And not everybody agreed with it, and they didn't have to, because it was her. And in her beautiful place, and she would say, because I was so proud of her. She was choosing not an easy pathway in what she was doing and standing in her place. And I'd say, sis, I'm so proud what you're doing, who you are. And she'd go, really? Are you? I was just like, yeah, 100%. So this beautiful lady we've got up here, she's in my heart. Being able to, as she passed, do her makeup, as I had done for my older sister, was like, nah, this is a bit too much. But just seeing Barbara and that peace, and it did surpass all understanding for us. But I'm just going to hand it over.
Good job. You're amazing. Thank you, Joy. Hey, boss. Oh, Auntie Lindsay. So Auntie Lindsay and Uncle Paul are actually... oh, thank you, Auntie Joy. That was so beautiful, and you're such a freaking legend. And Auntie Joy would say... I would ring Auntie Joy and say, why doesn't she just do this, and why doesn't she just do that? And Auntie Joy would say, it's her journey, darling. It's her journey. And that taught... and just like that, you would say... Just in that voice, it's her journey, darling. It's her journey. And I would like, okay, I'll figure this out eventually. So, yeah, you're an amazing, amazing woman. Auntie Lindsay and Uncle Paul are not actually our auntie and uncle, actually. This is another thing. I'm just going to... I'm sorry, guys, we've got some food out there. It's okay, you'll be fine. Just hang in there. I'm really worried about time. I hope no one's got anywhere to be. So, Auntie Lindsay and Uncle Paul. Paul is actually Dad's cousin because Paul and Dad, both of their mothers are sisters. But we grew up with these guys. They got 5 kids, all similar ages to us, and they lived in Taitac, we lived in Horswell, and we'd go to your place all the time and hang out all the time, because you guys had a farm, and we didn't have a farm, but you had a farm. And it was like, yeah, because back in those days, you couldn't have a business and a farm. That was just impossible. So we like survived the farm through you guys and your kids, and we loved it. We loved going out there. And just on Wednesday at the crematorium, Paul was sitting with my son, introduced himself to my son. So Dad's cousin is sat there with my son. So Dad's grandson, Dad's cousins, whatever, you can figure it all out. It's 3 generations. And it's his cousin introduced himself to my son and comforted my son, who had to see his nana. And I didn't have my husband there with me, but Dad's cousin sat with my son and talked to him about fishing. And I'm so grateful for family. You must see today that we're so grateful for 2 big families, 2 huge families that we come from, the Stuart family and the McIntosh family. So I'll hand it over.
Yep, so I'm Pete's cousin. Pete's mum and my mum were sisters, and they were good, what would you say, Presbyterian girls from down Waira South. And they were prone to a bit of mischief, I'd imagine, some of the stories I've heard from them. But anyway, I'm just going to clarify a couple of points that Jeremy talked about earlier on, just in relation to when Pete came to Nelson. Now, I've got a slightly different version, just only slightly, but I haven't been hit on the head with a bit of wood, so I reckon my version may be actually My version may be slightly more correct, but anyway. So what happened was I was a young fellow, about maybe 15 or 16, and Mum said to us one day, your cousin Pete's coming up to stay with us for a while. And we were like, oh, yeah, okay. Well, we had a pretty big family. There was 10 kids in our family. And I was number 9, so I wasn't too bad at that point. And anyway, so I said, what's that about? And she said, Mum said, Auntie Ruby's rung me up and said, he's got this girl that's real keen on him. And she's a bit worried about it. She said she seems real keen. And so what we think we need to do is send Pete away for a little bit just to let things cool down for a wee bit. So we're like, oh, yeah, okay, cool, yeah. You know, I was 16, that's about as much information I'd need to know. And so anyway, Pete Julie turned up a little while later and seemed like a good rooster. I had met him, years ago. He was a couple of years older than me. And big plus, he had a motorbike. He came with a motorbike, which was, and even better, he let me ride it occasionally. It was a XT500, so classic bike. I still wish I had one now. And he used to play the drums. So we had a big old house there, and he set up a drum set, in the lounge. I remember coming home one day, and he must have been going through a little bit of frustration or something, and he was fair beating those drums to death in the lounge. And but anyway, as time went by, then this woman turned up, Barbara, this red-headed, good-looking woman, turned up at the house for dinner once, and I think Mum and Auntie Ruby must have been scheming in the background, and as mothers do. And Pete was there, and then I think it all kicked off, and I didn't see Pete too much again after that. There was sort of he seemed to have other things going on. So yeah, that's my version of what happened up there. But anyway, well, the rest is pretty much history now. So. Yeah, and Pete and I, we've been, as Alice said, we've rubbed shoulders a bit here recently, and more so recently. So we enjoyed a great hunting trip just recently, didn't we, Pete? Well, it was turned into quite a mission in the end, but a little Pete had fond memories of being hunting up there, quite a few years ago. And quite a few years ago, he's probably a bit younger, and it, as time passes, distance doesn't seem so far any longer. And but yeah, we left at. What time was it? 3 in the morning. 5:30. Left home at 3. Yeah, left home at 3 in the morning. Got home about 3 the next morning. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was good. It was a good trip. Had a nice big stag, and we're still eating a few steaks. So anyway, I'll pass over to the school teacher here. She'll have a lot more to say than I will.
Do you all need a stretch? Are you okay? Look, it is my absolute honour to be called a friend of Barbara's and to be able to speak at this time. This is absolutely true because Barbara, I met Barb when I was 15 in Nelson at the Thorogood's house as well. She was visiting and I knew whether Pete was home or not because he would be hard out on those drums. You'd hear them a long way away. But Barb, when I was 15, I know 15-year-olds in this room, and I was so taken back by this amazing woman, Barb. She's older than I am. She came on in, she was just so full of life. She was confident, she had an amazing laugh. She was just full of life and she was just gorgeous, this auburn hair, and she was an absolute standout. Well, we were blessed when we came to rub shoulders again with Pete and Barb because when Rosalie was a baby, our eldest, Pete came and stayed with us in Hallswell and he introduced us to the Amway business. And we were like, yep, we'll do this. And the most amazing thing I hear, Alice, is all the friends and the personal development as well. They got to know our family so well and we got to know them and we did so much. They were our only Christchurch family. Everyone else was in Nelson. We did a lot with the Stuart children and Barb and I were pregnant together with different babies. Yeah, they had 4, we had 5. I can't even remember who's who. But yeah, Barb was so good, and Hayden and Miles were really great together too. And Barb would go and collect miles from kindy at Horswall so that he could go and have afternoons playing with Hayden. I think I do remember, Matt, I was pregnant with Annalise. Barb always wanted to teach her children to give more than they get, to give more than they were going to get. And one day, I was busy with my little ones, and Barb phoned to say she was coming to visit. So yay, Barb's coming out with the kids. Well, that was not quite right. When she phoned to say she was going to visit, she brought Alice. She bought buckets and mops and cloths and product. And she had come to serve and help a busy mum. She was a busy mum herself. Alice, I don't know if you remember, she came scrubbing, washing windows, mopping floors, and cleaning this jug that we had, this silver kettle that it shone so bright, I actually could see my reflection in it like a mirror. Barb was saying, we're here to serve, we're here to learn, and we're here to give. So Alice, here's the mop. Get busy. And Alice did. She was very obedient then. And when you said earlier about working very, very hard, Pete and Barb worked very, very hard. What you see they have now is not what they had. No. This is a work of their hands and the blessing from God. They grew the Horswall timber yard, which you've heard about in the Amway business, at the same time. Barb was out there with Alice and said, right, Alice, you need to learn how to be an entrepreneur. So Rosalie and Alice were sent out to the driveway at the end of the drive on the road to sell hundreds and thousands of biscuits. They had a profit of about 20 cents. Often Barb would be at Horswall Timber Yard doing accounts while we drove past at night. In the winter, you would go past and you'd see the Horswall Timber lights on. That was Barb sorting out systems. Boy, she worked hard. When I took Barb to the hospital visit for a friend, when I took her for her first radiation visit, she was, you know how they send you out when you're having I can't even think what it's called, and you've got to go into a different room, and she would say, Lindsay, are you going to pray? And I said, yeah, I'll pray, Barb. And she'd shout, okay, I'm definitely praying for you, Barbara. Thinking like, oh, low voice, Barbara, you know. And then she'd be saying through the wall, are you praying, Lindsay? And I'd be like, yes, Barb, I'm praying. And then when we had another time, I took her to the hospital, and we had to have an orderly, just they knew where to go, in the hospital, and she was telling the orderly how amazing the orderly was. She was saying, you're just amazing. What you do, your job is incredible. And how good is God? He's so good. Do you know he really loves you? And she was ministering in the 5 minutes of going from wherever the scan we had back to the hospital room. And that was our Barb, wasn't it? Amazing. I just felt during this time, I felt so encouraged that by Barb's enthusiasm to share the truth of Jesus, that when we returned back to the same ward, I didn't know, but someone I did know came walking down towards me, and she said, Lindsay, and I said, Nikki, what are you doing here? And she said, she's having treatment. I said, what, with cancer? I said, I've got this wonderful friend, Barbara, and da-da-da-da-da, and I'm here, this too. And because I'd been with Barbara for literally, an hour, I had this overwhelming confidence to share Jesus. So I said to Nikki, my friend Nikki, can I pray with you? Can I pray for you? And I kept in contact with Nikki through her time. She did not live as long as Barbara. She died a month later. She gave her heart to the Lord, and that was because of the confidence Barbara had given me to share the truth. It was Barbara. I just felt so encouraged. every time I saw Barb, this is just recently, you know what she'd say? She'd say, "You look amazing. Wow." And I was saying, it was actually Barb who looked amazing. It was actually always Barbara who looked absolutely amazing. Do you know when I took her to another hospital visit, she wore pearls? She wore her beautiful pearl necklace. Yes, that one. Well, I felt incredibly underdressed in that. She was just unbelievable. Just recently, when she's come back from Australia, it's been a really big journey. And she kept on saying, "God's got this. God's got this." And I'd say, "I agree with you." The other day, when she said, "I'm really ready for heaven, so what are we waiting for?"
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I said, "Barb, we're waiting for others to process this journey and give them the time to accept what's happening." "Really?" "Yes, we are, Barb." And then she just kind of, "Yeah, you're right." Hayden has sent many messages of trusting God for the healing. And I did believe God could heal her. We have stood by you with many a plead to heaven. Hayden, you have certainly invested in prayer into your mum. And on the 25th of January in 2022, God gave me a vision of Barb. She was reaching out. She was laughing. Her hearty laugh. She was wearing this most amazing royal blue, kind of blue-purple. It was so vibrant, and she was so laughing, her lovely laugh. And she was meeting people she just loved. And there was a room full. And I remember messaging Renita and telling her, "Renita, I've had this vision." And I kept on saying to the Lord, "Lord, no, not on earth, no." And I felt the Holy Spirit say to me, it was preparation, because we've been down this journey before with my sister, and Pete and Barb were walking that journey with us. And they're doing exactly what we are doing, because we love you guys and you loved us in that journey. And I just want to say that it's been a team, and Pete, I don't know how we're not going to say Pete and Barb. It's always been Pete and Barb, exactly. And just the other day, I said, "Barb, I love you guys." And she just, "I love your family." And I said, "I will look after. Paul and I will be there for Hayden and Pete. We'll be there for your loved ones." And she said, typical Barbara's fashion, she said, "It's not your responsibility." And I said, I know, but I want to. We want to. We will journey with you guys. You know how much we love you all dearly, and we're here for you. And it's been an absolute honour to walk this with you. So Pete, Hayden, Matt, Jeremy and Alice, we're always, always, always going to be with you guys, and we just love you so much. Thank you.
Special day, yeah. It is a special day. Thank you so much, Lindsay. Amazing. Jeremy, who's in next in the... Oh, we're right here. Go, girl, go. Oh, jump out front, right, girl. Get up front where we can all see your beautiful face, girl.
Nana liked knitting and she loved to worship. She always looked on the bright side, which made her life wonderful. She was the best Nana ever.
So I am, for those of you that don't know me, I am Barbara's eldest grandchild. I've been told this week that I am probably the favourite grandchild, but
This reminds me of Corrine.
But yeah, my nana was not your normal nana. She was someone that would, you know, get her hands dirty. She would always be doing, like, the jobs that you'd normally leave to the men. She was, you know, outgoing. She loved to drag us out on the horrific long bike rides down in Cromwell. Yeah, she took us for ice cream though, so that made it a bit better. I remember sitting in her kitchen baking cookies. Must have been about Raya's age, and I remember she'd asked me to read out the recipe, and I was like, we need, I don't know, like a cup of flour. And she's like, okay, just go and get a cup of flour then. And I'll be like, great, where's the measuring cup? She's like, we don't need measuring cups, just grab a mug, that's good enough. And I was like, are you sure? She's like, yeah, it's fine. But yeah, she was very, very adventurous, taught me many things. She was definitely one of my biggest supporters in anything and everything that I did. Yeah, like the last time I got to talk to her, the last thing she said to me was, she grabbed my hand before I left and she just said to me, Tave, I love you so much and I am so, so proud of you and everything that you've done. And I didn't really know what to say to that because, like, but I just, you know, said, thank you, I love you, and, yeah, like, she was always wanting to come and support us grandkids wherever she could. She'd love to come out to the boys' football games, out to my dance competitions, to anything she could to support us and just be there for us, which was just awesome for all of us kids, just to have her there with us, supporting us. And yeah. Well done.
All right, I have my notes. Okay, those who don't know me, my name's Renita. I am married to Jeremy, and I call Barbara Mum. So Mum hasn't always been a mum. So she started with Mrs. Stuart, then went to Auntie Barb for a few years, and then eventually Mum. Jeremy and I haven't even been engaged yet, and I called Barb Mum. The family her and Dad created had that effect on people. You feel like you're a part of the family, and you feel really comfortable in it really, really quickly. I have the honor to be her daughter-in-law of 17 years. And when I said honor, seriously, I meant I feel really privileged to be one. She truly is an incredible woman who I really look up to, who I aspire to be. Her love of God, His people, her family, and especially her grandchildren. That's when the tears swell up every time this week, whenever I think about how much she loves her grandkids, my babies, and how much we miss her so much. How the heck can you actually put a few words for a woman who's changed your life for the better? She's not only just she's not only given birth to the best human ever, to be my husband, she also given him some of the best traits: compassion, empathy, passion, patience, which I don't really have. I thought that I hit the family jackpot when I married Jeremy. But wait, there's more. I didn't know that could actually be possible. So that's when we actually had our babies. To watch Mum slotted herself into her role as Nana is just mesmerising. We had our first 4 babies in Australia, which 2 of them are in heaven. But every time Nana and Dad, Mum and Dad actually came to see us and spent time with Tave, our eldest, we just saw a massive growth in Tave that we can't even put into words, and that was only just a week. The development in our children being around grandparents is amazing. And then we moved back to New Zealand in 2012, and that was one of the best decisions we made. So thank you, Uncle Dave, for making that happen. We wanted our kids to grow up around grandparents, and looking back to it, it's amazing. So when you're actually in the moment of busyness, things just go, go, go. But when you actually look back to all the special moments that Mum intentionally did, you cry again. Mums, would be the biggest cheerleader to all her grandkids. There's school play, school prize giving, dance recitals, and competition. Cold winter soccer games. I did actually mention this on my Facebook, saying that Mum was actually struggling to walk, and she came. I couldn't believe it. She goes, "Go, Benjamin!" And I'm like, oh my gosh, are you okay, Mum? And it was quite far from the car. There's cello lessons, violin recitals, all the birthday parties. I would actually say also Skylar would actually goes, "Can Nana take me this week to my lesson?" I'm like, "Ooh, not this week, buddy." She would actually just be there cheering the kids on and pouring all her love for them. She loves all the cuddles, reading them stories, gone for a walk in the park. She's a very hands-on Nana. The energy that she had, far out. Mum used to get down on her hands and knees and play rough and tumble when Benjamin was a toddler. If you knew Benjamin as a baby, he was wild. Like a real puppy wild. That was his favorite thing to do with Nana. I have never seen a woman like that do that at that time. I thought, oh my God, that's a dad thing to do. To even say that she actually toilet trained 3 of my kids, that was amazing for me. Me too. I know, amazing. Whenever Mum came to our house, even just to drop something off, in 5 minutes, my washing was done, the house was clean, the school stuff was ready for the next day, all the socks got matched up really fast, even though I said, "Mum, don't do that, that's the kids' chores." But, she was such a doer, and her heart was always to serve people and help them. I don't normally share anything with Mum in it on my social media because Mum didn't really like sharing stuff, but I love capturing moments. So if you open up your middle page here, there's a picture here, the middle, that one there. Where am I? So I took a photo of that, of Mum, Dad, and the 4 kids after a pretty rowdy night in Cromwell. And she goes, "Don't you post it anywhere?" And I'm like, "Okay." So I've had it in my phone for ages, and there it is in your program, and she can't say anything about it. Mum was big on making memories. My kids' top memories was camping on top of Lake Hawea, fishing and boating. She planned this trip months in advance and to every single detail. My album of Mum on my phone pretty much filled with her face and my babies. It's true what they said. We don't often remember what people say, but we remember how they made us feel. Mum had a way to make people feel seen as an individual. She did this so beautifully with each and every one of her grandkids. She knew how to make them feel loved and know what's going on in their world. We cry lots this week because we've been loved so deeply by her. And I'm so ever grateful to be a recipient of that, and how blessed my babies are to have that until the end. I mean, look, when, some of you actually came and see Mum in the end, and Mum loved to see you, but her face is so different, and she just lit up whenever the babies actually, the grandkids actually see her. And she loved their hugs. Even when they actually took all her energy she had left, she knew that that was worth every second of her cuddling her grandbabies. We are missing her so much and going to do the best to navigate this next season of Earth life without her. In her last day, Jeremy and I had a chat with Mum and said, "Are you ready, Mum?" She's like, "Yeah." I said, "Make sure you cuddle those babies for me." And she's like, she's a bit mumbly then. And she goes, "I'm just so excited." So we'll look through Mum's 65 years of life, and man, she lived life to the fullest. If Mum is sitting with you right now, she would actually push you to live your life towards that God's calling. No shortcuts and no holding back. Our time on earth is such a short mission, and so do that. Because one day you'll look back and see how many lives you've changed because you said yes to that calling, just like Mum did.
Thank you so much, Renita. Do you want to come and help me introduce? Oh, are you going to introduce Squeak as well? You can introduce Squeak.
I can still hear you.
It doesn't matter. We're all friends here.
Spot on. So Squeak's not biologically part of the family, but he kind of is. I remember one day, him and I it was quite amazing how it all worked out, really. We were going to primary school around here at Oaklands, and him and I got on really, really well. And I remember one day coming home, things were a bit tough on the home front for Squeak, and I said to Mum, I was sort of packing all my gear, and she goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm moving out." This is year 8, so you're like 12 years old or something. She's like, "What? Where are you going?" I said, "I'm moving out. I want to go get a job, and Squeak and I are going to go and flat." And right. Mum's like, "Well, hang on, put the handbrake on here, Cobb." And Squeak basically came and lived with us there for a bit, and literally just fitted in like a glove to our family, and still is to this day, and will be forever. So there's your introduction, Cobb.
Thank you. Yeah. Sorry, I'm not a very good public speaker.
You can pull up a pew if you want to.
Yeah, we'll pull up a pew.
Yes, to go.
Yeah.
So I've sort of been kept in the loop through Matt, Hayden, Alice, Corrine about what's going on the last 9 months. And I just was pretty busy, just wanting it not to sort of happen, not to be here. And Hayden texted me on Friday and said, "Mate, it's time to come in." But no, I was busy on the farm. I wasn't busy on the farm. I just didn't want to say goodbye to Barb. And then Alice rang me up, said, "Mate, pull your socks up and get in here."
I also said we're having a beer on the deck, and it'd be really cool if you can come and join us. It's a cool atmosphere.
So yeah, she got the old drill bit arm when she said beer. No, just And anyway, I'm really glad that you did call me, and that I went in there. And Barb isn't one to take credit. And when I went and seen her, she was just saying, "Mate, what a hell of a story, what a hell of a story, mate." And she said it's a credit to me, but it's not. It's a credit to Barb for opening up the door. That's enough said. Yeah.
Righto. Well, I don't really have that much to... Well, I started writing like 3 pages of notes. I was like, "No, this isn't going to work." I mean, how do you fit Mum into a speech? She was flipping exceptional. A lot of the time, you meet someone and you go, "Oh, they've got this quality, the rest of the qualities are kind of down about here, but they've got this thing going for them." Mum was just exceptional in every single aspect of who she was. She was absolutely phenomenal when she... Oh, is it still working? Yeah, no, that's the story. And one thing she was big on was goal setting. Is everything. It was always looking to the future, but not looking to the future for what she could gain, it was always about the next generation, and it was always what legacy are you leaving. I'm going to leave you with this thing today from Mum as well. I'm not to the end yet, but one thing she was really big on is what legacy are you leaving for the next generation to come and the generations. She was such a futurist as far as her thinking goes, and it was always how can I serve others better. How can I slot in here and help pull the socks up of this bloke? Or, she was just, I don't know how you can't really explain it too well, can you? You can try, but now where do we get to there? We're way off track. I've got legacy leaver. What legacy are you leaving for the generation to come? And then I've got, don't get me wrong, it's a real crap situation. That's the understatement of the year. But Mum, you can see by the amount of people in this room how much she's loved and the impact that she's had on your lives through meeting her for 10 minutes. You couldn't meet Mum for 10 minutes and then not remember her. She just had something about her, and my encouragement to you today is yes, Mum's, she's not here now in the flesh, she's passed on, but what part of her are you going to take into your future? Sometime 10 years, 15, I don't know, at some stage down the track, you're going to do something for a loved one or for a stranger on the street, and they're going to turn around and say, why the heck are you loving me like you do? Or why are you being so nice to me? What the heck? Why? And you'll say, because I knew a lady called Barbara Stuart, and that's what she lived by. So the baton's been passed not just to our family, but to you guys as well. It's actually, and that's what she was all about. She was all about leaving a legacy and not just living life for the sake of it and having a good time. She was about that too, don't you worry about that. But, she was, oh, gosh, you can't even wrap her up in a few words. It's just not going to work. Now my phone's playing up like a second-hand lawnmower. Between that and sweating like a sack full of cats at a greyhound meet, I'm not going good. I tell you what, the shirt's not multicoloured, they're just sweat patches, you'll be right. Coming out in the wash. Anyway, I wanted to finish with this. I went to heaven about 8 years ago. I know it's real. Mum's in heaven now. And I know for an absolute fact, and this is why you get the odd moment when you're a bit cut up and the pipes burst, but for the most part, it's more of a graduation service for Mum as opposed to I'm never going to see you again. I know heaven's real as well as I know a dog's got 4 legs. So I know I'm going to see you again, Mum, and it's my goal for the rest of my time while I'm here on earth to do you as proud as possible and try and help you live on through me.
Hey, bro.
You'll be happy to know we're past the halfway mark.
Is it time for a tea break?
Yeah.
I've already warned the caterers. I said, we're going way over time. I'm so sorry. Is everyone okay?
We're
surviving?
actually, have everyone stand. We're going to have a little bit intermission now. And actually we are. We're going to have a musical intermission. So if the band can come. Mum was a real lover of music, wasn't she? Of all music. But certainly through her faith, she was a real lover of worship. And in her home, the worship music carried her to the point that actually when she left on Monday morning, we'd had some special days in the nights, but we knew she was declining. And then I spent the last night with her as her nurse, so to speak, giving her the drugs and things she needed. She wasn't really that responsive, and in the morning she woke, but she didn't really wake. And I knew she was there, but she wasn't. And I said to her, Mum, I think that today's the day. I think today's the day for you to go home and be with Jesus. And I didn't know it was going to be the day. And I've been with other family members that have passed, and it's not always that peaceful. And anyway, her breathing started to slow, and I actually left the room, and Lottie was there. I went into the kitchen, and Lottie came back a few minutes later and said, mate, she's gone. And I was like, what? And it was as quick as that and as peaceful as that. And we'd put some worship music on, and this first song that we're going to sing is a song that was really special to her. And then the next song is the one that's become special to our family from the incredible party that we had for her not so long ago. So if you know, please sing along, and otherwise just enjoy. Over to you guys.
lift a clap offering this afternoon. We thank you, Lord. We thank you, Father. We thank you, Lord. We just thank you that we've been singing the most profound, the most beautiful truths. And Lord, we thank you as we stand here and celebrate the life of your daughter, Barbara. We know that these truths, these profound truths, are the very truths that transformed her life, but also gave her the hope that she had. And Lord, now she is standing before you. And who knows, may even be singing some of those very words. We want to thank you today for your kindness to us. Thank you for the hope that you give us. Thank you for the hope that you've given Barbara and her family. In Jesus' name. You may be seated. You may be seated. If you need to grab a drink, there is some water around that way. Jeremy just said to me, look, we really want to somehow apologize because, the sense of time running away. And so I know what that's like, Jeremy. And everybody who's part of this church knows that I have a challenge with time running away. And so the speakers that are coming next, I'm just going to ask you to just keep it tight. We've got several speakers yet to come, people who have been invited to speak. But Alice, would you come and there's something special Alice would like to do.
I just really had it on my heart. This is the last thing, I promise. I wanted you all to know what a special time we had with Mum in the weeks leading to her passing. And I know everyone says, I'm so sorry for your loss and all that stuff, and it's as beautiful as that is, and as much as we appreciate that, I want you to know that we don't feel sad for our loss, because I don't feel like sure, she was cut short by 20 years. Yes, I will admit that. We've had time. My Aunt Sandra, who passed away from cancer, an 18-year time with cancer, she said, cancer's a gift. It gives you time. And yeah, we were angry at the beginning when Mum was diagnosed, kind of 2 years ago-ish. And in the last, Matt and I said after her party, things could get, Mum had incredible insight. She said at her birthday, which was on the 1st of October, she said, I looked at the cost of a funeral and I looked at the cost of a party and I thought I'd rather have a party. And I just had this, Mum always knew a lot more than she let on. And we sort of kept in pretty close contact, all of us kids, and Auntie Joy, and with how Mum was tracking, and Lottie, we would keep this communication. And when things would turn sharply, we would just all rally round. Life would cruise along, we'd just cruise, and then there'd be a turn, we'd just all pull in and we would do stuff. And I just want to show you some pictures. I really want to put you at ease. When a baby is born, and I'll be brief, I know time, and I appreciate, it's hot, and I appreciate you all sitting and being part of this with us today. I want you to know how much we appreciate you being here. When a baby's born, we celebrate so much. And when someone leaves their earth suit and leaves the earth, equally, shouldn't we celebrate the life that they had and the time of their passing, and shouldn't it be beautiful? And I'm so proud at what we did with Mum in the final, what we knew. You kind of get close and you sort of get a gauge. When you get close to humans, you get a gauge on how things are tracking. We knew it was getting close. We knew. And we would do these lasts, and looking back now, they were lasts, but they were so special. We'd do these days at Mum's house where we'd park up with the family and we'd all come round and we'd station it. It was all staged and set up so Mum could just sit there and watch the kids play. And we'd bring in particular activities, and it was all staged, and it was beautiful, and we'd sit there and just enjoy. And the weather played its part. It was summertime. The garden was in full bloom. It was so beautiful. It was so beautiful. So how can you be angry? How can you be sad? I mean, I'm sad. Please don't get me wrong. But when it was so beautiful, it's hard to feel bitter about it. I don't feel bitter at all because it was so beautiful. It was so beautiful. So I just want to show you a collection of photos. I've obviously cleared these with my family. But I just want to show you some of the cool stuff we did. And I don't know, I can't know if I've got the timing right. I put this together about 5 minutes before we started today. But I just want you to know, and you'll see from the photos, that how beautiful the last, we had special time before she went to Melbourne, and then special time when she came home from Melbourne, and the days that she went downhill, we were all there having a fabulous time with her at her bedside, having a great time. It was special. I just want you to know how beautiful her exit was. It was so beautiful. So, well, if Sir at the back, if you could hit. So this is, we went out to Sumner. Matt took the day off work. We got as many of us together as we could and went out for this impromptu lunch in Matt's classic car. Mum was loving it. We said, Mum, you're up front. This is a photo on the beach. And it was super cool. A family cruise as adults. It was super cool. It was just, and Mum loved the beach. She loved the beach. She liked to feel the sand in her toes. And she couldn't really walk that well, but we walked along the beach with her. And look at her laughing, her and Dad. And we had this waitress, and she just was a barrel of laughs as Hayden connected with her and did what he did. It was hilarious. You can only imagine. And Mum just wanted to be part of it. She's, we were really getting frail, but she was loving it. Just having such a special, precious time. And we knew it was last. Out seeing Matt cut some trees down, and the kids, she liked being around the kids. And that was the last time she went out to Lowburn. Watching the kids play. She loved, look at the smile on her face. She just loved watching the kids play. She just liked to be there. She just soaked it all up. She just couldn't believe that we had this incredible family. She just liked to watch it. It was just beautiful. We just got some caught some special moments. It was just beautiful at their place that they created, that they built. And to have all the family around, which we hadn't done a lot, to be quite truthful. In the last 5 years, we didn't do much of this stuff. But this was how beautiful it was at the end, guys. I mean, look at the view out there. It was so beautiful. Hayden's playing the harmonica. She's raising her hand in worship. Even then, she's still praising God and just uplifting him. It was just so beautiful. She was so happy and she was so peaceful. That's the view out of her room on the Sunday afternoon before she passed. Stunning. Fresh cut flowers from her garden. It was just beautiful. And we had a really cool evening on the Monday evening, and it was so beautiful. We all got in there and rallied round, and it was just honestly the most happy and beautiful time because I was happy for her. We had a beautiful time at the crematorium on Wednesday. A special time writing messages on her casket. I put the fresh cut flowers from her garden into her casket, pretty much 80% of the species that she'd specifically and particularly planted in her garden. And it was honestly, guys, you can see it there. It was beautiful. It was special. We had a special time. Truthfully, it was just so beautiful. So you must know that we've had the most incredible week, and we've all been looking forward to being here with you today and culminating what has been an incredible 5 days of celebrating this incredible person and what she has meant to so many people. And that's the end of that. I think there's one more picture to come. Oh, there's not. I had one of our whole family, but maybe I stuffed up and didn't put that on there. So sorry. I had one of our entire family and all the grandkids, but I've clearly mucked up and it's not there. But you can imagine it. Thanks, Wes.
Here, the gallery. Come on up.
Wow. What an honour. Barb and I weren't girlfriends, we were mates. I don't remember either of us ever calling each other girlfriend. We were both a bit tomboy, so I hope I've really shocked you today. I've got eyeshadow on that she gave me, and I never wear eyeshadow. Many of you will realise that. And I've straightened my hair with good GHD hair straighteners in the fringe that probably about, 15 or 20 years ago I got a haircut. I was in a bit of a mood. I said, just leave one side long and one side short. So he did. Thank you, Kahu. But Barbara saw me the next day and I hadn't straightened it. I had some straighteners and it was a bit wonky and it was a bit wavy, you see, so hairdos like that don't go well if you don't straighten them. Next time she turns up, she goes, here's a pair of straighteners. She said, I don't need them anymore. So I use them every day. That's just scratched the surface of the memories that I've got of such a phenomenal woman. I'm a bit like you, Hayden. I'm going, there's no way that you can put all this, but I've packed it down and I've packed it down and I've packed it down. So listening to you and Alice helped me because I met Pete and Barb, and yeah, Pete and Barb's going to be a bit tricky to drop. I met Pete and Barb when you were living in the red brick rental house. Must have been when you bought the yard at those meetings you were talking about. So that's where we met. And Daryl and Matt wanted to have play dates, so Barbara came round in Music 2 and picked Daryl up from our house and took him away on a play date, and we quickly became friends after that. Then you guys went to Australia. Then when you came back, I was involved in women's prison ministry, and Prison Fellowship had asked me if I'd run a restorative justice program called Sycamore Tree, and they said, but you'll need somebody to help you. And I thought, I know just the girl. So I did a bit of an Amway, and I said, would you like to come out to a Sycamore Tree graduation and just have a look? So she did, and it was phenomenal, and we were both wrecked. And I said, well, would you like to help me do this? And she goes, I'm in. And that was the beginning of Barbara's prison ministry. A lot of you won't realise that because of the confidentiality and the nature of her ministry. You don't really go talking about that a lot. But today I want to honour a woman who's such a world changer, who changed so many women's lives who were in and outside of prison, who now live in the community, they're married, they've got children, they have families, and they are successful because she is a gifted problem solver. And I'd tell her about somebody that was coming out of prison, and she'd go, so what do we need? Sound familiar? What do we need? Do we need parenting programs? What do we need? And I'd be down at the yard and she'd be on the computer supposedly doing her admin work, and we were cooking up how we could get all these information for these women coming out of prison to help them learn just how to do life. And so, yeah. That ministry probably spanned, I think, for over 6 years, and she was on the prison chaplaincy team, so we used to do chaplaincy services once a month. And the raspberries were something that was born out of Living Waters through Megan Voss, that then got handed down to Rhonda Matthews. And I don't know if the photos work, but the raspberries are a lip syncing team, and they used to get dressed up and do really ridiculous stuff and make people laugh. I did it once and then I fired myself because it's just not me. So we used to go out to prison on special occasions at Christmas and things like that, or whenever we thought that it was needed, and she'd get dressed up and they'd do this lip syncing, and she just had a ball. She just loved doing things like that, and made a lot of women really happy. So out of that, our ministry grew at a phenomenal rate, and I couldn't even begin to tell you all the amazing stories, but Prison Fellowship New Zealand asked me to come up to Wellington to the national conference, so Barbara came with me, and I didn't really realise what that was going to be like until we sort of got there, but we got to rub shoulders with the government, and they'd heard about what we were doing down here in Christchurch at the women's prison and knew all about us. And I'd put a manual together that some of the women in prison had helped me with, and they said, we've got your manual up here. So on the table with all of this other material was our manual called I'm on the Outside, about how you actually walk somebody out of prison so that hopefully they don't go back again. And so that was a highlight for me, and it was during earthquakes, and I remember I was quite nervous about going to that conference, and Barb and I were going to fly up together, and she goes, I've still got some stuff to do at the yard. She says, I'll see you in the morning. So I had to fly up by myself and sort of get acquainted with what was going on, and she met me in the morning. She says, don't worry, I'll be there before you speak. And she was, making sure that all my clothes were right and my hair was right and everything was right. So, yeah, she was just an incredible, incredible support. We were at a Sycamore graduation one day, and I did what I usually do at the end, would have a table like that and had the certificates and things on it and in my briefcase. So I grabbed all my stuff at the end, threw it into the briefcase, and I chucked my cardie. And I told you guys this story. Chucked my cardie under the table. When I got home, I went, oh, bother, I've left my cardie at prison. And then later on, I opened my briefcase. Everything in my briefcase had been folded up properly. All the papers had been put in the right place. And you guessed it, my cardie was in there all folded up like it was in a shop sale. And I went, I know who did that. And that's the kind of person that she was, and that's the kind of support that she was, and the memories that I have. Another time we were running another program in what they called the baby unit. It was quite a tight space, and a big earthquake happened. And it was big, and it was rolling, and it went on for ages. And I was the only person in there that had keys. The door was locked, and it was quite tight. So she's at the door end without the keys, and I'm at the sound desk end with the keys. So I'm sitting there with my hand on the keys, ready to abort the program, and we were in a good bit, and unlock the door and let everybody out. And she's looking at me. We were looking at each other, and the girls are looking at me, knowing I've got the keys. And I went to stand up to open the door, and she goes, it'll stop in a minute. Sit down here. Like, that was her saying, sit down here, we're not going anywhere. So it did stop, and we had a chocolate biscuit and coffee break and carried on. Another time, again, we were leaving prison, and she goes, it was Christmas. She goes, I've got a present for you in the car. She said, it's practical. And so she hands me, guess what she handed me? Can anyone guess? SA8, 3 kg of washing powder. Amway. And she handed it to me, and then that was the beginning of me becoming an Amway person. And I just went, you know, how many of us have got Amway in their laundry? Hands up. Heaps. But I laughed because she gave me the Amway, and then Pete goes, oh, you must come to this meeting tonight and find out what we're about and blah, blah, blah. And so I ended up, and I went, yeah, okay, guys, I'll just join. But it is the best washing powder in the world. So I'm just double checking I haven't forgotten anything important. All right, so, yeah, I had some special times, those times that Alice was just showing, and I just want to thank you guys for letting me in on that. These last few weeks, I wouldn't swap for anything. My boss has been amazing. I've said, my mate's not good, I've got to go, and she goes, get out of here. So I've done that a few times and would do it again. And last Sunday I went up there, and Hayden was in the room painting his picture, and Pete and Barbara and I were there on our own, and so we were able to reminisce, and we were laughing about how you can't ever really give Barb a compliment because the answer was always, we're a team. And she was still doing it the day before she died, and we were reminiscing about all the amazing things that she'd done in prison. And she was pointing at me with her finger, and I said, no, you. And so, yeah, that was my goodbye. Was it? Yeah. We were a team, and it's going to be really difficult. But I'm going to carry on and do what you guys have said, and I'm going to go as hard as I can, and make her as proud as I can, and just keep going. But I just want to say, Barbara and Stuart, many daughters have done well, but you excel them all.
Noah Cooper? Noah Cooper? You still here, Noah? Here you are. Yep. Yep.
it's an absolute awesome privilege to be asked to come up and speak, because I know that everyone in the room knows Barb and Pete and has got a story to tell. And I feel a little bit like the new kid on the block, because I didn't do prison ministry and I wasn't around then. And we were sitting down at the table, actually, Pete, trying to figure out actually when it was that we first engaged with you and the family. And I received a phone call, it was probably about 10 years ago, received a phone call about 8 o'clock in the evening saying, listen, we just thought we'd pop over and have a cup of tea with you guys. And I thought, oh, okay, well, that's cool, 8 o'clock at night, you know. And it was like a little bit unusual, but anyway, okay, we'll roll with it. And they came in and I put the jug on, and they pulled out of their briefcase a laptop and opened it up, and it all looked very official, and we were now launching into Amway, you know, and I'm sorry to say that we just haven't quite clinched the deal yet. You never know, it just might move on to the next generation and I might jump in. But anyway, listen, Barb has left an absolute legacy. And it's like in everybody and everyone's lives that she has touched, there is a part of her and her memory and just what she carried. And, you know, she was so open. This whole family has just been so welcoming and so open to us. And I was reminiscing about when we first got invited to go down to Cromwell, and I felt that I got initiated into the family. And Pete had gone off with my husband to play golf. I think we kind of had to get them out of the place because there were a few jobs that they wanted to do, and so they put us on the tools. Matt and Jeremy and Barb was right there, and they were replacing fence railings. And so, of course, you know, it was no picnic. It was like you're either in or you're out. And so anyway, it was like I jumped all in. And it's like, man, and we're just gunning it. And I remember at the end of the day, it's like sat down, and I think there was a beer in that put on the table. It was like, you're in. And you had to prove yourself, you see. It was like there was no loafing around. And, you know, and a casual bike ride was 30K. You know, it wasn't just a nice little meander down to the lake. I mean, these are just memories for me that have been just so special. And, you know, my daughter, Ella and Pete, were invited to go down there, and they'd lost their jobs. And, you know, it was with the whole COVID deal. And so Pete and Barb opened the place up down there, and Hayden, you know, sort of put a good word in for them, and they got work at the bee farm. And anyway, so Ella's there, and she's pulling up crates, and, you know, sort of a week later, her hands are just fully raw and blistered. And she's ringing me, and she's saying, Mum, I don't know how I'm going to do another week of this. I really don't. And anyway, they were supposed to be going out for a bike ride, and it was like a 30K bike ride, and she's just going, I just can't do it. And she goes into the house, and, you know, and she's feeling a little bit sorry because her hands are sore, and Barb's there, and Barb's going, you're absolutely going for it. You know, you're going to get on that bike and you're going to go. And that's who Barb was, but she brought the absolute best out in all of us. And she believed in us, and, you know, and she wouldn't hold back, and she extended her arm to everyone. And I just want to say that you see it throughout the whole family, all you, you know, Alice, Matt, Jeremy. It's like Hayden. You're all the same. It's like you're a part of your mum, and put you all together, it just makes a force to be reckoned with. And it's like, and you're going to go so far and so wide because you carry the legacy that your mother has imparted to you. And not only to you, but she has imparted it to all of us. And I just want to encourage you all, embrace it. Barb loved the Lord with all of her heart. I've never seen such a courageous woman, and a woman that would fight. It's like she really did fight for her life. She did. But I want to say this, that even though we feel like her life has been cut short, I go, who are we to say that? Because she packed everything in.
she packed so much in, more than, like a lot of us in the room put together. That's how full her life was, and she is still living. And I know that she is cheering us on, and she is saying, go for it. Don't hold back. Step out. I look at my grandson who was afraid to go in the water, and when we were down in Cromwell, she was in the water with him, getting him on the flutter board, getting his face in the water so he wouldn't be afraid. There was no such thing as I can't do it. And it's like, so I just want to say, Barb, you're an absolute blessing and have been a blessing, I know, to each and every one here. And we just honour you and we honour the family so much.
Thank you so much, Nawa. We're going to hear from Lottie, and then after that, Mandy. Lottie has been Mum's carer since about March this year, and we were all so lost as to how do you find someone. Come on, Lottie. Come on, girl. Mandy, come and get a seat, girl, or however we're doing it. How do you find someone who is going to fit into a family? There's a few dynamics going on in our family. How do you find someone who's going to care? Do you find someone who's going to share Mum's faith? How are you going to find someone who's going to fit into all of that? And wow, through Renita, this is the thing about surround yourself. One thing I'd like to quickly say, it's not about how much money you have and how much resources you can build up. It's freaking irrelevant. It's about the people you have around you in your life. You need to build an incredible people around you, because how would we have found Lottie if we didn't have Renita? All these people we've got around us, and it's what we've built. It's what you and Mum have built, is these people around us. It's incredible. Makes us have the week we've had this week. It's been a walk in the park. Absolute walk in the park, walk in the Botanic Gardens it's been this week because of the people we have around us. And I'm so grateful to Lottie, Mandy come in at the end for the care that they gave Mum. Without further ado.
I really don't know what else I can say, but at first I was introduced as Barb's carer, but that quickly went out the window. I just fell in love with this lady who didn't worship, she lived worship. She loved God so much and she loved her family. She talked about her grandchildren, she was so proud of every one of you and just proud of her children. Just like I say, I can honestly say I've never known anyone who loved God as much as she did, and she just radiated that right to the end. I mean, right to the end. She just loved God, and yeah, I'm just so blessed and honoured to have got to know this beautiful family and their mum. Thank you.
Hey everybody, I'm Mandy. I'm Wes and Janet's daughter. I've known the Stuart family since I was about 11. I was in the same year as Jeremy at school, and we happened to go on the same school bus at times. And anyway, I had the absolute honour of coming in and helping out Barb and the family for around about the last week and a half, 2 weeks. And I don't say that flippantly. It was an absolute honour. I had a number of people ask me when they found out what I was doing, how do I do that? How do I have the capacity to do that? Well, I tell you what, every single day I walked in that door, I came out with more capacity than I left. The atmosphere was so rich and so positive and so full of thanks and worship that I came out with my tank more than overflowing. I didn't want to leave. I did not want to leave. And I think that is a real testament to Barb and Pete, how you've cultivated the culture around your life, how you've stood with God, all your ethics around every single decision that you guys have made. It's been beautiful, an absolute privilege to witness. Thank you so much for trusting me with your mum. That is not something I took for granted at all. That was huge, and I'm massively honoured. One of the things that we know about, I won't be too much longer. One of the things that we know about Barb is, I'm sure all of us have really benefited from how she really took the time, even when she had her own stuff going on in her life, If she saw someone in need, if she saw something that needed being done, she would just step out and do it. Step out and help. One of the ways that she helped me, and there's many, but I'm just going to say this one story. It was about 2 days after Hayden's accident. I'm sorry, Stuart family, you've heard this story a few times, but a couple of days after Hayden's accident, they were walking through hospital in the emergency, and I was sitting down, and I was actually pregnant with my little daughter Charlotte, and she was actually an ectopic pregnancy, so she was growing in the wrong spot. As a number of you guys know, that when you have an ectopic pregnancy, either the baby dies or the mum and baby dies, and I felt like I was rupturing. I was in massive pain. I couldn't stand. I saw you guys walking past and I couldn't do a single thing. I could hardly even talk. They'd already dosed me up with morphine and it was doing nothing. Your mum, Barb, stopped. She took the time to come down and sit down with me and goes, well, I know why I'm here, but why are you here? You know? And so I just told her what was going on. And she's like, have you had any prophetic words about this child? You got any scriptures about this child? I'm like, well, yeah. A few days before she was conceived, like I knew this child was meant to be. So I cannot understand why this child's going. I cannot understand this. And she's like, well, stand on the word. Like totally practically, totally barbish, you know. And so I did. And I just kept saying the words that God had given me. And she prayed for me right there and then. And I tell you what, the second that last word left her mouth, the pain began to move. Okay? I could feel the baby move from here towards the centre. They did the scans because they were prepping me for the abortion, because I had to remove her. And they could fully see that a baby had been growing there. It was still all swollen, the fluid was still all there. And I thought, oh, maybe it's a twin. And they scanned, no twin there. She was growing in the perfect spot. My beautiful child that's almost 7 years old. But if Barb had not took the time to stop, even though she was in crazy, overwhelmed need and desperation herself because she was standing with her son and the rest of the family, my child would not be here. I would not know how to stand in faith. And I know that things did not work out how we wanted to with Barb. But I tell you what, every single day that I walked into that house, it was miraculous. And I'm so glad for Barb and everything that she stood for. My heart and my life and my family are so much better off because of who she is, who she was, and how she stood.
Matt.
I'm going to help with this one too, if that's okay.
Yeah, just
You just can't get rid of me. Matt's going to read out something from... Dad and I were talking the other day, as you do, this whole week's been put together through a lot of conversations, and Dad said, I just really want to give tribute to Mum's business acumen and what she's done. And again, this is a tribute to Mum and Dad putting people around them, the right people around them, and keeping those people with them along the journey. And Matt Taylor is Mum and Dad's accountant. He's been their accountant for over 20 years. More so, he was very young when Dad met them, Mum and Dad met him, and he's put together some words about Mum's business acumen and what Mum was like in the business world, which is how she's actually been able to be so successful in all the other areas of ministry and things that she's done. Is that right? Is that good? Okay, cool. I'll leave it to you.
You've done well. Well, I'm Matt, everybody. If you don't know who I am, maybe you might be in the wrong spot. But anyway, this is just going to read this out from Matt. Hi everyone, Matt Taylor here. Sorry I couldn't be here today with you all. I've had the privilege of working with Barbara and the Stuart family for over 25 years. I do recall the first time I met Barbara. I was blown away with the level of energy and enthusiasm, as well as her thirst for learning. Barbara was a leader, a thinker, a mentor. She was driven in business on behalf of her family and community. She never stopped, but she knew what she didn't know and sought assistance from others regularly and adopted what she knew would work for her, the family, the business, and the wider community. One thing I'll never forget is she did this with that big smile and that wonderful laugh. Barbara could be very serious, but always managed to have a laugh along the way. When you worked with Barbara, she was always inquired about how you were, what your family was up to, and showed a genuine interest in the person you were. We'll all miss Barbara dearly, but none more than Pete, Alice, Matt, Jeremy and Hayden. We're all here to support. Today, you're all about to celebrate the life Barbara led, and she did make the most of it. And the way she went about it is something we could all learn from. I was asked to summarise Barbara in one word, and I think Hayden would agree. That word would simply be awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Now, just one more little video clip. There's a beautiful young lady who Barbara just impacted so much. It's about 2.5 minutes long, but it's just so beautifully put together. If you could run that video now. Young lady by the name of Kate Hislop.
Hi everyone, I'm Kate and I'm a friend of the Stuart family. I'm so sorry that I couldn't be with you all today, but wanted to share with you a little story. So in 2009 I did a solo road trip around New Zealand, and a friend of mine said to me, come and stay with us at our batch with my family in Cromwell. And I thought, oh, I don't want to be a burden on anybody, so I'll just stay a night. Anyway, that family was the Stuart family, and that night ended up being a week because I didn't want to leave. I remember sitting on the steps out in the sun outside the batch and sitting with Barb, and I shared my heart with her, and she sat and shared hers with me. I was in a place where I didn't want children. The family that I'd been brought up in, it didn't appeal to redo that. Didn't want to be a mum, didn't want anything like that at all. Until I stayed with the Stuart family in Cromwell and saw what family could be. Seeing them all laugh together around the table, and that amazing Stuart laugh right from the gut, and just seeing everyone best friends and hanging out and wanting to be together, I just thought that is what I want. So Pete and Barb, you know, you guys really changed the trajectory of my life. I was on my own way, and then you guys were a part of that, and God really changed my heart. And now I have a beautiful husband and 2 beautiful daughters, and I'm so happy and I'm so thankful because a lot of that has to do with you guys, and you guys were the start of softening my heart and showing me what family is all about. So I just wanted to say that Barb has a very special place in my heart, and as does the Stuart family, the wider family too, cousins and aunties and things, and I'm sending you the biggest love and hugs today, and yeah, heaps of love.
Very, very nice. I remember Barbara saying that one of the reasons she loved to invite people down to their situation in Cromwell with the holidays and was because there's some people that just never had a taste of family, never understood what family could be like, and that was one of the things she wanted to expose people to, was just how family operated. And no doubt there's some hijinks that have gone on from time to time, but that was her heart. That was her heart. I'm just going to share very, very briefly. Some of you are wondering what. Most of you who met Barbara knew that she was a follower of Christ, and you've heard that all the way through here today. And so I just want to read one passage of Scripture, and then just wrap it up. And then we've got a few more things to do. We've got a beautiful slideshow to run. Hayden's going to play the harmonica in that, and then we will officially stand and say our farewells to Barbara. So this is John chapter 3, verse 15, reading from the New Living Translation. For this is how God loved the world. He gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him will not perish, but have eternal life. God sent his Son into the world not to judge the world, but to save the world through him. There is no judgment against anyone who believes in him. But anyone who does not believe in him has already been judged for not believing in God's one and only Son. And the judgment is based on this fact. God's light came into the world. Jesus is that light. My addition. God's love came into the world, but people loved the darkness more than the light, for their actions were evil. All who do evil hate the light and refuse to go near it, for their sins will be exposed. One of the great understandings that Barbara has, and I use has because for many of us, we don't think of Barbara having ceased to exist. Because in a biblical Christian worldview, we don't think of people having ceasing to exist when their body's no longer able to host their spirit and their soul. The great apostle Paul said that to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. So those who are genuine believers have that great confidence, and that was Barbara's confidence, and that's the family's confidence, and that's the friends of Barbara who know the Lord as well. That's their confidence. But here's my question to you: what are you doing with the light that came into the world? What Barbara did with the light was she recognized that the light of God, Jesus, the truth personified, the one who came for several reasons. One, to seek and save that which was lost. Secondly, he came to be the revelation of God himself, the Father, so that people could have a tangible understanding, an understanding of what God is actually like. Because the world is very confused about what God is like. And some religiosity hasn't done that a good service. But the genuine followers of Christ, our role is to somehow be conformed to him by the working of the word in us and by the working of his spirit in us when we open our hearts to him, so that our lives become transformed so that we can be light to other people. And that's exactly what Barbara was. That's why so many of you have been so deeply impacted by her life. It wasn't by accident. It was because she opened her life to the light. To the light of God, to who Jesus is, who the Father is. So she understood herself, and she understood where she fitted in God's great picture and God's great plan. And eternal life came into her, and even though her body has passed away, her spirit and soul are as alive as they've ever been. She's just not with us. So here's my question to you. What are you doing with the light? Are you moving toward the light? Are you moving toward the Lord? Are you coming into the light? Or are you trying to move away from the light? Are you trying to ignore the light? Are you trying to resist the light? Or are you moving toward the light and welcoming the light? How are you doing? What's your response to the light? And so I would not be doing Barbara's memory justice if I didn't at least encapsulate in some way what her life was about. Her life was about being light, just as Jesus is light. Jesus said, I am the light of the world. And to his followers, he said, you are the light of the world. So Barbara's life was not hid under a covering so that nobody could see the light because she was embarrassed about the gospel or ashamed about the name of the Lord. Her light was out. Not out in terms of extinguished. Her light was out from under that covering so people could see, so that people could experience, so people could taste something of the goodness of God through her life. Fellow believers, what are you doing with the light? People who may not believe yet or are trying not to believe, what are you going to do with the light? Because this is the judgment. The judgment is to do with what we do with the light. There's my challenge to you today. I had a lot more to say, but I just wanted to really condense it up to that one simple point. What are we doing with the light? Family, what are we going to do with the light from now on? What are we going to do with Barbara's legacy from now on? How are we going to live our lives? Are our lives going to continue and increase being light? Or is the light going to diminish? My challenge is let the light increase. Foster the light. So, Father, I want to thank you today for the challenge of your word. I want to thank you, Lord, today for Barbara's life and the fact that she yielded to the light, submitted to the light, embraced the light, embraced your word, embraced your spirit into her life, and a transformation took place through the length of her life, where more and more and more we saw the light of Jesus radiating out of her actions, her attitudes, her love, all that she is to us. And Father, we give you thanks for it, because we know it's your grace, it's your kindness, it's your mercy at work in her life. And today, Lord, we honor you. Above all things, we honor you for her life. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Well, now we're going to run that beautiful presentation. Hayden's going to come and play the harmonica. There's a very special reason Hayden is going to play this. When Hayden had his accident and was in that first phase of recovery, when the medical people just simply did not think he could possibly survive. He used to play the harmonica before the accident, and he used to play a lot of songs. And then once the accident happened, he couldn't play anymore, but somebody bought him a harmonica. And then as he began to play, the only two songs you could play was Amazing Grace, and what else?
Oh, Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
I'll quickly share a bit of life.
And Amazing Grace was not a song you would have wanted to have played before the accident. But after the accident, all you could play was Amazing Grace and Hallelujah. All the pub songs were gone. Yeah, isn't that amazing?
I could just about play Dirty Old Town's got about 4 notes. I could play that at a pub when I was just about horizontal. And I never played Amazing Grace. And I woke up from a coma, and the only song I could play off by heart was Amazing Grace. I'm thinking, this is a flippin' stitch-up.
Yeah, it was a stitch-up, Hayden, but I'm really glad about that, because here you are. Yeah. Here you are. We're going to begin to roll that. Hayden, do you want me to hold the microphone for you?
Yeah, they might have to turn it down a bit. I'll hold it there if that's going to... They'll work it out. Yeah, if that's going to work.
Just before we pray, and just Peter and Jeremy, did you want to briefly talk about those books that are available for people just to be for free? Okay.
So, Dad didn't want to say anything. He wasn't even thinking about saying anything, and then he woke up 2 mornings ago after reading a book that Mum had started reading that she hadn't finished, and realised how significant reading has been to her life and to our life as a family. And in Mum's way of giving and us wanting to continue her legacy on, I'll let you share. You want to do something?
Yeah, well, yeah, I wasn't going to speak, and I'm not going to take any more time, but wasn't she a doll? She still is. Anyway, don't go there, Peter, for goodness sake. We've got a job to do here. Anyway, jeepers. Anyway, all you people that spoke, just been, you filled my tank to overflowing, honestly, you have, every single one of you. You've painted the picture of this most amazing woman in the world. Just, that's who she was. So any of you that maybe have not known her for very long, or maybe didn't know her very well, or maybe you know me, you know, some of my golfing mates, you come along here to support me, and thank you for that. But maybe you've been a bit shocked by some of what you've heard today, but anyway, that's okay. You'll get over that. You'll get over that, or as Wes said, you'll do something about it, either way. Hey, anyway, this was the book that Barb was reading, written from an amazing lady, Lynn Packer, from our a church family here in Living Waters. I'd seen it sitting on the bed on Barbara's side of the bed a few times, and anyway, as Jeremy said, I picked it up a couple of days ago, and I just thought, well, the cover kind of caught my interest because it says co-creating with God. And under that it says, learn how to let your creativity loose in every area of your life. I don't need to say any more about that. You've heard all about that today. Anyway, if you want to read more about it, it's on the back of the book. And some of those books, maybe not enough, I don't know, but some of them are available out there. Another book that I happen to have had a few in my hands for a few years and wondering what to do with them over the time. Too good a book to throw away, but anyway, they've been in the archives at the Timber Yard and then they're out of there. But as you've heard, Barb was big on education. The Amway business taught us the power of reading. One of the parts of the learning of it was we're on a book program, Book of the Month program. We've got 2 massive bookshelves at home of a lot of books. Some of them I still have to read. Anyway, this one here actually was on that bookshelf. It is still, but now these are available. It's called The Key to Life. And under that caption it says, born a winner, live a winner, die a winner. Does that tell you who we're talking about? We've heard all about that today, don't need to go any further. And then under that it says, unlock the secrets of your success with the key to life. Nigel Allen, a photo of him in the back there. He was the youngest motor vehicle trade dealer in Australia in his time, I think about 20 years old or something. Anyway, it's on the back of the book, read that. We've got a few more of them, so if you want to take 2 of those and take one for a friend, do that as well. But the thing I love about that book was he was a success thinker, and when I met him a few years ago, actually he came to speak at this church, this family church here, and I connected with the guy quite quickly because he kind of was talking my language, because he had a strong faith, strong belief in God, and a strong passion to share that with others, because he knew that that was the key to life. But I'll just pause here for a quick minute and say, you know, I can promote all the books I like and, you know, say all the books on our shelf are great, and they are. A lot of them are great. But, you know, the best book that Barb and I have ever read, and the best book I'll continue to keep reading for the rest of my life here on this earth, is that book that's probably sitting on a lot of your shelves today. Or maybe you've got it sitting on the coffee table using it for a coaster for your coffee cup. Don't let it do that anymore. It's more important than that. because it is what Nigel was saying in that book. It is the key to life. I spoke to a guy in a car sales yard a few weeks ago. Barb was at one of her treatments, and I was there with her. Anyway, there was a car sales. I'm pretty keen on cars, always have been, and there was a car sales yard, mainly four-wheel drives, but there was a little Mercedes two-door that kind of caught my eye. Barb was always quite keen on classic cars, for those of you who know her. We've got a great photo on our wall at home that some of you have seen. Her hanging out the window of this absolutely amazing old Ford car with a motor bigger than what you'd wonder how it could fit in there. But anyway, it's all motor, and that man's here today. He's here to honour Barb, and I met him at the way in. And anyway, where was I going with that? Oh, no wonder my kids lose the train of thought. I think you get it from your father. Anyway, no, it was about stories. This one here means a lot to me, because this one's written by a guy called Daz Chettle. And I haven't known Daz for that many years, really that well, but when I met this guy, he impacted me like this guy did. And I've been wondering why, because I think they too have the same heart that I had, and wanting others to know the truth about who God really is. Who is Jesus, you know? He's not someone that you swear about on the golf course when you have a bad shot. I'm not putting anybody down for that, because as we said, that might be just where they're at on the journey towards the light. But anyway, they don't hear me talking about him like that, because he's more important to me than that. He's my Saviour and he's my Lord. And I wouldn't be where I am today, and I wouldn't have the family that I have around me today without making that decision. When Barb and I made that decision together. And it was through the connection, honestly, through some amazing CDs back in the early days in the Amway business. And if I'm crossing any lines here, business-wise, I don't care, because it's true. And I'll just tell you one quick phrase that I'll remember. One of the first CDs, not CDs, back at another level. Little ones won't know what cassette tapes were, but anyway, well, I used to listen to them in the car wherever I went. I was on the road a lot of hours selling timber. This guy's name was Ron Perrier. So some of those who've been in the Amway business for 40 years, you'll know who he was. And one phrase he said that I'll never ever forget, and it was a big part of helping me get my life sorted out in my probably late 20s. I'd given my heart to Jesus at age 10, and it's a very emotional time for me. I remember that very clearly to this day. But as a lot of people do, they kind of maybe drift, as Wes said, you know, drift away from the light. And I had drifted away from the light for a number of years. You know, anyway, I won't make excuses for that. But anyway, coming back to this book, this man was on a journey as well. And I could relate actually a lot to his story, because a lot of that was me. He had a very low self-esteem. He, when he was asked to get up and make a speech at school in his class, because he was basically dyslexic. Anyway, I probably was too. Anyway, we won't go there. He had to make a speech and in front of the class, and I can't remember if it's written in the book, Daz, but I remember it. I've heard you say it. He peed his pants. He was that terrified. So, Squeak, if you need to go and change, you go and do that. Anyway, getting distracted again, I always do. But anyway, I honestly, I don't care where you are in the walk of life at the moment. One of those three books, I'm sure, or the whole three, you will gain a lot from, because there's one thing I've felt from Barb in the last wee while as we talked, and we used to wake up in the middle of the night, go to the loo, and one night, you know, I remember talking, we just talked for about an hour and a half, and it was probably the longest conversation that we had before she passed. And anyway, where was I going with that, Jeremy? What I'm saying is, read the back of the book. Maybe if you're a believer in the room and maybe you've read the book and don't relate to it, well, that's okay, no worries. But it's the real deal. And I was at this book launch a few weeks ago, and Gary Rogers, who's a part of this family here, he's a ghostwriter. And I never knew what a ghostwriter was, but I found out he was one of these guys that Daz, because he wasn't a good writer, he thought he could never write a book. And but he could talk and he could work his cell phone a lot better than me. So you're not doing so bad, Daz. Anyway, he used to tell a story on a cell phone and then email those stories to Gary Rogers. And Gary, I'm sure, is probably here today as well. So is Daz, by the way. He probably didn't want me to do such a big promotion of his book, but I'm doing it anyway because it impacted my life to another level. And I watch a guy by the name of Dutch Sheets on Give Him 15 every day, pretty much, as I sit in the sauna. And he said something the other day that really struck me. And he said, because the whole life, it seems to be, it's part, you just keep on learning all the time. And, you kind of think, well, when am I going to actually really get the whole thing about this whole Christianity thing, this whole walking with Jesus? And he said, you never do while you're on this earth. It's a continual journey. So these books, I don't know where you're at today. If you've been challenged beyond where you're at, then and you don't want a book, that's all good. No worries. But thank you. I'd encourage you to honestly take 1, 2, or 3 of them. Are they free? They're free. They're Barb's and my Christmas present to all of you. All of you. Okay?
Thank you.
Well done, Dad. You're doing so well. I just want to say thank you so much for your patience. I guess if you've grown up in a Catholic church, you might be used to long services like this, but otherwise, it's I recognise that we've gone on a long time, but it's been really special, and so I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. I don't say goodbye to my mum only once. We only do this once, and then this is a big next step for us, and you're all part of our lives, continuing going on forward. So. I've spoken at weddings before. When you're in a wedding, you come together, and then it's the responsibility to carry those people on in their marriage. Well, you're all here today. It's your responsibility to carry us on, because we're leaving with a flipping big hole in our heart, right? But we've got you, and we are strong. We are so strong. So thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you, Jeremy. Could we all stand? We all stand. And what we're going to do, because we don't have Barbara and a casket here, and people following Barbara out, what we're going to do is just give you an opportunity to come up after I've prayed, and you can take some of these petals, you can put them on the table, you can just say a personal goodbye, just as a point of contact, point of reference for you. If you don't want to do that, no problem at all. And then you can go out, and if you're able to stay, there'll be food and drinks out on the deck. God bless you all. Thank you. Those who need to go, you're free to go. Thank you so much for being here. But we're just going to pray right now, okay? Father, I want to thank you today for all that we've heard, all the honour that's gone to you, and all the honour that's gone to our dear friend Barbara. And today, as we stand here, and the family has already committed her spirit to you and said goodbye and cremation, we as family and friends gather here, and we say to you, Barbara, farewell, rest in the Lord, and we will see you again in the resurrection. And Lord, we just thank you for her life. We've committed her to you, but we release her in our hearts today into your care. In the name of Jesus. Amen. Amen. God bless you all. Feel free to come and